even though I'm all about strength and power and that kind of thing, and all of my goals are kind of strength related with the squats, deadlifts, bench press, pull-ups, all that kind of thing. When I see experts in other fields, I just kind of want to stop and kind of admire their ability. I was watching the Olympics the other night and watching some, I think it was 1500 meter run race, and I was just admiring these Kenyans who clearly have a different kind of running economy. The way they run, the way they control their pelvis, legs, everything is just in harmony. That kind of led me to kind of go on a bit of a search and read about what makes them kind of different. The altitude, obviously, and how they live and whatnot plays a big part, as well as genetics. But there's one particular guy that kind of stood out from the crowd, a fellow by the name of Eliud Kipchoge. This guy kind of was the first one to ever cross that marathon under 2 hours, even though it was kind of an event. One of you guys actually pointed out in the other video when I said there was a few guys that kind of crossed that. Apparently it was never done an official kind of meet. This was kind of like an event where they had paces and whatnot, but he was able to kind of go sub 2 hours. Anyway, that wasn't the deal about this particular documentary. They were talking about what makes him so different. And the first thing that kind of stood out in my mind was that this man is obviously a physical marvel. The way he's able to kind of run and his fitness level is just on another planet. There was some talk about how he doesn't produce lactate until very, very high, so his lactate threshold is very, very high. So he's able to run aerobically, feed his system aerobically for a very, very long time, and so he doesn't have to create lactic acid, which is just a testimony to why how he's so fit. Obviously genetics plays a big part, but the one thing that stood out in my mind amongst all of the things that he was kind of brilliant at was he kept kind of talking about the mental side of the thing. He kept talking about teamwork. He said that he can't, he not that he can't, but he finds it very, very difficult to run alone. He's always running in a group of people. He's always pushing people. They're pushing him, and it's like a team sport. Who would have thought running being a team sport? I mean, I'm a very much an outsider looking in. Anyway, in this documentary, they were talking about how they train, and at one point they said they were running like 100 miles a week or 150 miles a week or something like this. And I just thought that was incredible amount of running, man. Like that is just astonishing amount of mileage. But the one thing that I found very interesting was that they run basically every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. But the one thing they always talked about was they run like at a light pace. They're not busting their balls when they run. Only once or maybe twice a week do they push. Automatically, when I heard that, I thought about my auto-regulation, my perspective in strength training. I know some of you guys are cyclists, and you guys have kind of talked to me about, how you guys, organize your training. Obviously, endurance training and strength training theoretically should be different, but I thought there was some similarities there, like to what I'm doing, right? Every day of the week, I'm kind of taking it easy, and then once or twice a week when I feel good, I push it. And so for them, the mileage might be the same, but they might be pushing, at a faster pace. I thought it was incredible. It was incredible. And the one thing that for me, somebody that's a complete noob, like when it comes to running and VO2 max and all that terminology that I kind of used in this documentary, was the way they looked when they run is just different. It is just a different type of technique. They look so stable. They don't look like they're grimacing. Whereas the other guys that were kind of around them in the Olympic meet, Eliud wasn't there, but the race that I watched, but everyone else kind of looks like it's a hard slog. It's they look kind of not so comfortable, at that pace. Whereas some of these Kenyans, man, they look like they're watching freaking TV, man. Honestly, the guy's facial expressions, he's so comfortable at running that pace. By the way, that is an extraordinary quick running. I thought marathon running was, certain speed, but I never thought it was that freaking quick, man. Honestly, I don't think I'll keep up with those guys running at that pace, at that jog, right? For like 2-3 minutes, man. This is just insanity. The way they run and the amount of time they can sustain that, it is just absolutely unbelievable. Like I said to you, I am somebody that admires people in the strength game, people from the basketball world who can jump, dunk, 1 foot, 2 foot, who can sprint, Bolt, those kind of guys were really impressive to me. But to see the other side of the spectrum, to see the guys in the endurance kind of field do what they do, and the amount of mileage they have to do. Like, think about how many hours a week they spend running. Is just, I don't know if there's any other sport out there that is so time intensive. I mean, you can't run 30 kilometers in 10 minutes, man. You know what I mean? You can't do anything like that. You just have to run for like an hour or something. I don't even know how long it would take for them to run. But the reason I'm telling you about this mileage is and the low intensity that they're running it at, I just can't help but think they're just working on their technique. They're working on their strides. They're working on, and he said that he's just trying to kind of perfect his technique. I mean, I've never thought about this in my life, running technique. I just never, like when I was playing basketball, I was pretty good kind of in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 meters, kind of like that sprint. But I never thought about, knee lift or where I put my feet and where I put my hands. I just kind of exploded and did whatever felt natural. But when you're dealing with something that lasts like 2.5 hours, 2.25, every little thing that you change, and you repeat it 1,000 times, that at the end of the day could be 10, 15 minute difference, half an hour difference. So I just thought it was really interesting that, somebody on the other side of the spectrum of fitness was talking about high volume, low intensity as being the recipe. I thought that was really interesting. And I remember a few months ago, or maybe a month ago, one of you guys who's a cyclist actually commented on one of my videos talking about this very thing, how you guys also kind of train. So I just thought it was interesting to see the similarities between that kind of Bulgarian method, strength training, very kind of high intensity, every day, low volume, and then the other spectrum is kind of like high volume, low intensity, and there's like all sorts of variations amongst both of the groups, right? This is the only kind of program I've ever heard about the running, but I know the majority of people out there, like the bodybuilders, they talk about kind of medium intensity, high volume to achieve the bodybuilding. It just kind of sparked a kind of neuron in my head, and I just started thinking about it. The program side. But the other thing, I kind of already mentioned it, that really stood out with me was he talked about teamwork. He talked about the calmness of mind. So he, Eloid Kapoji, he lives on this farm. Like this fella is a well kind of renowned runner in the world. He's probably like the GOAT, right? He's probably the GOAT in running. From my kind of, by the way, I'm not an expert in this at all, but from this little piece that I've kind of listened, he seems like he's like the best of all time. He lives in this rural Kenyan village, very, very kind of like not spectacular, not very interesting at all. Like the guy basically lives, it looks like it's poverty. He's got the farm, he's won several times these big races around the world. I think he ran the New York Marathon several times, and there's lots of kind of prizes there to win. So this man is a very, very accomplished runner, but he kept talking about the calmness of mind, spending time with family, spending time de-stressing, relaxing, all that sort of stuff. So he spoke about a large part of the documentary, talking about just the mental side of things, and I couldn't stop thinking about what it takes for somebody to be in this comfort for 2 hours. I mean, we talk about in the weightlifting kind of world where we're talking about a big squat, or we're talking about a sort of 20 breathing squats where the bar's on you for like 2 minutes and you're praying to all sorts of gods above you to get through it. But imagine a scenario where you are running for 2 hours and you are in a hurt locker for 2 hours. Now, I know this man is a physical marvel. Like, there's no doubt about that. But for me, the most notable thing for me about him is the mental, man. This man is a mental warrior. I just know it just from looking at him. He doesn't exhibit pain when he's running. He's just, I don't even know whether he meditates. He might even meditate, like put himself in some sort of like different state, different aura, different kind of frequency that he kind of puts himself in to kind of take himself away from that pain and agony. I know from being a nurse and spending a lot of time in emergency, spending a lot of time with people in pain, there's a lot of I've learned that pain is completely subjective. Somebody might get their leg blown off and say it's a 7 out of 10 pain, and then another person could come in with like a crush injury to the thumb and they'll say 10 out of 10 screaming in pain. Some other person might have rolled their ankle and be screaming in pain, and another lady who's 90 years old who's got a dying gut, there's a bowel ischemia happening, just comfortable sitting there. So I know this is all subjective, but I believe that there is a way to train that subjectivity of pain perception. Perception is an interesting thing. I've spoken about perception in different kind of contexts, but I feel like if you can wrap your head around pain and change how you perceive it, man, do you just unlock the physical attributes within, man. If you can just think about this, if you can go from 10 out of 10 pain and put that all the 10 out of 10 pain and put it down to 5, how many more reps can you get in a set? How much more can you attack the training session? How much more of a savage, like all that exponential growth from one training to the next, it would just be exponential. And you see it all the time in Olympics and weightlifting and soccer and football, guys shooting penalties, guys shooting free throws at the end of the game on a game 7, like absolutely shit themselves. There's a mental side of sport that we all kind of know about, but I don't think we attribute enough to it, which is another reason why I always, you guys always kind of, not all of you guys, but some of you guys always comment on my, reason for squatting every day. And I've kind of alluded to you guys that the mental side of this is just equally as beneficial as all the other stuff that I've spoken about. If you can get up every single morning at 4:30 in the morning, come in here and go to war with the bar, get in that hurt locker every single day, you are building something beyond your physical form. You are building a mental thing. And then once you build your mental, your physical is going to follow. There's no doubt about it. We speak about David Goggins. Goggins is a savage. And the only reason he's a savage is because he's conquered his mental. He's friend with pain. He understands discomfort. All of these things have to be understood before you can, untap that next level of, physical ability. Seeing that Eluid fella, I always mess his name up, Kipchoge, I think his name is. Man, what radiated it to me about this fella was just the mental. Like, I don't even, like, maybe this man is just mentally stronger than all the other top 10 runners in the world, and that's what separates him. Maybe he does produce lactic acid. Maybe he does have pain. He just says, to hell with it, man, piss off. I've got a race to run. Maybe he's just a mental warrior. Man, that stuff to me, man, I get so attracted to these type of individuals. I just want to sit down and speak to him. The energy that he had, like in this documentary, was so calm. He was just like this monk, it felt like. He was just no aggression about him. He's just going around his business. He spent some time with his animals on the farm. He's just this gentle freaking, being. Very, very attractive kind of soul that I felt through the camera, right? Like, I'm not even in the vicinity, and this is probably like captured like a decade ago. But I just kind of thought about that, and I thought about what I'm doing. I thought about the program that he's running, that I'm running, and the whole kind of mental side of all of this. It's just, I just feel I can feel that there is something there that maybe a lot of people kind of forget about or don't even realize the importance of. It's just one of those things that it's a beautiful thing when you see other disciplines basically employ the same ingredients to their craft. The mental is the mental. What you do with the physical is what you're choosing, whether it's weightlifting, soccer, basketball, running. It doesn't really matter. You have to master that mental perception of your body, your form, your pain, and then you go on from there. So to me, that was a remarkable fella. What I'm thinking about right now is that image of him running at some crazy pace. And there's a whole gang of them, man. They're all running, and they seem like they're freaking sprinting. They're so quick. It's so quick. And all of those dudes, they look like they're just sitting watching some freaking TV show, like some boring-ass TV show. None of them are like exhibiting any signs of discomfort. And yet their limbs are just flying in. The strides are so long. Oh my God, it's a beautiful thing. Absolute poetry. Guys, what you're seeing here is me doing something that I haven't done in a little while. Quads, leg extensions. What brought that along? I've kind of spent some time with the whole hip thrust idea, worked that up. After all of that kind of last few weeks, the precipitate of all of that is the clamshells. I think the clamshells are here to stay. I've been doing them basically every single night before bed. That's making my glutes feel really, really good. And so I've kind of mastered that. So the whole hip thrust thing, clamshells, I've kind of precipitated that to just one exercise. That's a keeper. Put that to the side. That's kind of done. That project is done. And going back to the quads, now the time before I did the glute kind of experimentation, I did the quad experimentation where I was kind of comparing leg extensions to Bulgarian split squats, and there was some uncertainty there to what actually contributed more to my deadlift PR of 240. After some thinking, after some studying of the log, I've come to the conclusion that I think it's the leg extensions. Even though the criticism that I had of it last time was that I can do a stupid amount of volume and the following day there's no DOMs. And so that kind of had me concerned whether this is actually just pissing in the wind or it's actually doing something. I think it's doing something. So that's kind of going to be in the program in the next kind of week or so, I guess, to kind of explore that idea and see whether that can translate to another deadlift PR. So I'm going to give this a really good block. Maybe once every 2 days I'll be doing this. And then in between days, I'll be doing kind of volume with the clamshell. So that's one thing. After this, you will see me doing something that I haven't done in a very, very long time. I think I've only done it once just for like a experimentation. What I did was I did some pin squats, kind of like Paul Anderson squats, bottom up squats. What that kind of looked like was me setting the pins, the safety pins, to about a quarter squat. I think that's where I'm going to start it. I really wanted to maintain that kind of upper body verticality. I wanted to kind of keep upright and see how it goes from there. So what I was surprised by is that there is a definitely sticking point for me around that kind of area. It's kind of hard to get the bar moving, but once it moves, I feel like I'm good. Worked up to 230 kilos for a set of 10. So quarter squat wise, I'm pretty strong, which kind of started making me think, well, maybe the quads are really strong. But then I guess there's a sudden deterioration of strength when I go to kind of parallel and below. So anyway, I think I'm going to explore this as well. So let's see where it takes me. I think Paul Anderson, he had one or two things that he had going really well for himself, and squatting was definitely one of them. So, this is kind of being kind of on back of my mind for a little while to kind of think about this. But anyway, I've got some time now. I am actually on annual leave from work, so I've got about 2-3 weeks of good recovery and sleep ahead of me. So I'm going to try and play around with certain ideas, certain concepts, and see what they do to me and my performance. So this is going to be one of them. I was actually surprised to see 230 go up the easy. I probably could have gone even higher. Now the sensation that I got was incredible amount of tension through the lower back, upper back, and core. Obviously the quads were working. Obviously the knees I was concerned about because reversing such weight when you got a free weight on your back, it could be dangerous. That's why I put pins. So I think that point where you're reversing the eccentric to the concentric, there's a lot of, I guess, possible shearing force on the knee. This is why I believe ATG squats are safer than parallel squats. So if you're going to do, I guess, parallel squats, or if you're going to do quarter squats, the healthiest thing for that cartilage, for that knee stability, is just to break that eccentric, concentric on some pins. And so that was the thinking about this. There was a brief moment that I thought, let me just do freestanding quarter squats, and I thought, no, let's not load the knees to such an extreme extent where there's like a rebound effect right at the kneecap at the quarter squat. So that's why I decided to do the way I did. Anyway, you see here 180 on the bar there, plus another 50 of the reds. That works out to 230. I didn't really know what I was going to be able do here, but I ended up doing a whole lot, 10 freaking reps. So anyway, I need to think about the frequency of this. Obviously, I'm going to see how I pull up tonight and tomorrow and to see how my legs feel. Obviously, the biggest concern is knee health. I feel like this can be quite tough for the knees. The other thing that as I'm looking at this, my glutes were firing like crazy, which was really, really surprising because there was no forward lean at all. It was just up and down. But there you go. That lockout is all about the glutes. Anyway, guys, some more of my thoughts in a video. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's see how I pull up tomorrow, and then we'll see what we do tomorrow. All right, guys, until next time, peace out.